Yeah, I'm looking at some NBA stuff right now.
Yeah, I'm here live with my man 12. Do you want me to call you Roy? Do you want me to call you 12? How do you want to go about this, man?
Wait, what?
We're live now, so I just want to know how you want me to address you. You want me to call you 12? You want me to call you Roy? How do you want to do this?
Oh, yeah, 12. Yeah, 12 is pretty good.
Yeah. So the way I like to do my podcast is you guys can tell from Wheel Up Podcast, wheels up. We just go, we just flow. And I feel like that brings up about organic conversations and a way that most people aren't doing it. Now, we got some big news today with the Russell Wilson stuff. The main reason I want to have you on is because you're a lot younger of a guy than me. And I thought you could offer a good perspective on the DFS community, a young man's perspective.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, because you look at the older community, and of course, as soon as I go live, I get phone calls. But if you look at the older community, it was all about trying to make money quick, or the industry was a lot different. Where now you got sports betting, you got late breaking news. Like, look at the news today. Russell Wilson getting traded is going to change the odds for Denver to win the division, just like that, instantaneous.
Oh, so, you're talking about the quarterback?
Yeah, so I'm just saying, for how a young person watches sports, because you didn't see. I grew up without DFS. You didn't really grow up in a world without DFS, or at least without gambling. You're a younger guy. So how do you think that affects the younger generation? Just that gambling is going to be a part of their life. So not even you, but you 5 years ago, what's the younger generation look like when it comes to sports fans?
Yeah, how are they going to be able to finesse it? Because you can't even join DraftKings if you're under 18. You can't really go into a casino. So,
I mean, do you think we see less fans and teams?
See less what?
Like your generation and younger, do you think they cheer for teams less? Like, are they cheering for more players? Are they more fantasy based?
Oh yeah, dude, these kids love gaming, like esports and stuff.
I mean, I love gaming too, but on a different level. I grew up with Sonic and Mario, but you guys are almost growing up in the age of gambling plus video games. You look at Mutt, you look at FIFA,
right?
My Team, all these different modes. NFTs are starting to come in with their own versions of gambling plus video games. So I guess what do you think the next evolution is for gambling as it appeals to the younger audience?
I'm not sure. It's pretty accessible because if you have DraftKings on your phone, you could just play it whenever you want. I don't know what they can do to make it better for the younger kids.
Maybe it's worse, but what do you see happening? Do you see a Peyton Manning style DFS kind of broadcast? Instead of watching the traditional broadcast of Al Michaels or Joe Buck, are we going to see a Pat Mayo broadcast or an Al Weinfeld broadcast?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, I know I brought up with him a couple weeks ago, and he was just saying he thinks that the industry's just going to grow in terms of content, but it's I think the next evolution is live as the game goes on, whether that's an Amazon or a Twitch or one of these big virtual platforms teaming up with the NFL or teaming up with the NBA. And just taking DFS to the next level.
Yeah.
But to be honest, some of the dinosaurs have to get out of the way. Like right now, we got a lot of dinosaurs out there talking about sports, but when you know damn well they don't do any sports betting.
Are you talking about like ESPN and stuff?
Well, I'm just saying in general, like there are people on ESPN and Fox, on all these major broadcasts, that like they see the money in gambling, and so they want to be hip and cool to it, but they have no idea what they're talking.
Right.
So that's where we need like a Pat Mayo, we need like an Al Zeidenfeld, we need like a Peter Overzet, you know, because some of the really good sports bettors are not entertaining, right? Like they would just be boring to listen to, they're very monotone.
Right. Yeah.
But like you need a good brand, someone who understands it from a marketing standpoint, how to be entertaining, but also gamble at the same time. So I just think that's the evolution of it. I think we see less people cheering for teams. Like I don't think we see that many Steelers fans anymore. Like I think your grandpa's Steeler fan kind of mentality is gone. And I think people are more likely to cheer for, Juju Smith-Schuster as the player, as the younger generation. Like fantasy is just taking over on that role.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. Why I forgot.
No, it's fine. That's exactly the organic conversations I want. I don't want this to be churches, man. I don't want us to have like talking points. I want this to be a fluid, free flowing conversation. We transparently shoot the shit about DFS.
Yeah.
About fantasy. So it's perfectly fine that you forget. Speaking of forgetting, though, what do you think the next evolution is in terms of DFS, in terms of like the actual game? Like, we saw it started with DFS, then it went to Showdown, then we see more, like more prop bets and more, like, do we see more like basketball contests? Like, do we see a hybrid? Do we see more like super flex? What do you think the industry is in the next 10 years?
I'd like it to get different. I would like if salaries could update. A lot of people wouldn't like that though. But I think
you
that
mean like a current update, like a market flow kind of thing?
No, like you know how like when the slate comes out, all those salaries are locked, right? Like Wilson will be 7K.
Right.
But what if like his running back got hurt? I feel like his price should go up, but I don't know.
They kind of already have that. There's a site that kind of does that. It's like stock market DFS. It's called Jock Market.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really interesting because what they do is every day it's like stock trading, and every day the market changes.
Right.
So it is still kind of locked in the traditional model in a way, but it does update more often than DraftKings. Because I think what you're getting to is a larger, greater point that these salaries get released on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning, right? And then by Sunday, it's like, oh, this running back got hurt, and now his backup is 4K, and now he's going to be 60% owned in this GPP.
Right.
But I guess that do you think DFS kills sports in a way?
Yeah, I think I like sports more before I played DFS. To be honest.
So how do you think that affects like the younger generation? Because you're the youngest kid I know that's into DFS, but also knows sports. That's why I wanted you on, because you can kind of lend your ear to the younger generation. Because again, I grew up with sports without DFS, and so did you. But you're closer to the younger generation of fantasy football player than I am.
Yeah, well, the sharks need food, right?
Yeah, I remember I asked my cousin like a couple of years ago, who was like 10 years younger than me, who his favorite team was. He was like, favorite team? I don't have one.
Oh,
And
really?
he listed off like 15 of his favorite players, and they were all from different teams. I just think that's a fantasy football kind of effect.
Yeah.
People are more a fan of Julio Jones than they are like the Tennessee Titans or the Falcons. It's like I'm a Julio fan. Or these kids go to college and they get drunk in their dorm rooms and they fall in love with a Pat White, and so they follow him into the NFL, and then they'll follow him to whatever team he goes to. Or Tim Tebow. I just think that's like the next generation way of following sports.
Yeah.
So, did you hear the latest news though with the Calvin Ridley stuff? I want to get your opinion on that.
Oh, that pisses me off. I think they should be allowed, or it would be nice if they could be allowed to bet but not throw games. You know what I'm saying? But
in theory, I get what you're saying. In theory, if that was possible, but I think the NFL is protecting against this Pete Rose effect.
yeah.
I think in theory, like it sounds like California cool, like hippie boy, like let's go surfing, have a good time, and then there's always the one asshole at the party who has to ruin it. And it's like I understand why the NFL has to put a kibosh to it, because if they don't put a kibosh to it, then the Saint Bernard gets drunk at the beach party, and then the cops get called. And so I just think that's like the analogy that the NFL is facing. If they let this one thing go and it balloons into this big thing, and it's not Calvin Ridley betting 15 grand. He was only betting 15 grand, which might seem like a lot to some people, but to a guy who's making millions of dollars, betting 15 grand is not going to make or break his day. Well, what happens if Roger Goodell starts betting on his own league? Like, but that's the slippery slope, I think, that we face in this new world.
Yeah.
I brought it
as hell, dude.
Oh, yeah. No, you're good, man. I actually like that you messed up. It speaks to our transparency and our professionalism. It's like the early days of the Joe Rogan podcast. But
yeah, right.
It's interesting. It's interesting though how much fantasy sports and DFS and gambling keeps these sports leagues transparent. Like, I don't think the Miami Dolphins situation with Brian Flores is that serious, with Ross talking about offering to pay him to throw games. I don't think we take that as serious if we don't actually have money in the line. So in a weird way, like the DFS players kind of play the vigilante role to protect the sport. So even like the grandpas that don't like the DFS players, like that are on the court saying like, "Oh, I watched Terry Bradshaw in the '80s, and you guys don't appreciate sports in the same way."
Right.
No, we police the damn sport to keep it fair in a way. So I understand why you don't like it, because sometimes, like I remember I watched a playoff game this season. I watched the Eagles Tampa Bay game with my friend, and we've been sports fans for decades. And he was like, "This game is boring," and I'm like, "I have Gio in my fantasy league. Shut up!" I'm watching it like Super Bowl because I have Giannotti Bernard at like 4K. He's like, "Who gives a shit? This game has been over since halftime."
Yeah.
But I care. Now, do you find that to be more annoying, or is that good, or is it both? Like, what's your kind of view on it?
It's both. I feel like who cares? Like, if you want to talk about your damn fantasy, you're watching sports.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it kind of annoying though that you watch it through the lens only?
Wait, what?
Is it is it kind of annoying that we watch it through the fantasy lens only? Because that's what my friend was getting at. He's like, you become such
Oh,
a fantasy guy that like you're not even watching the sport for itself
I
anymore. Or you're
know,
watching your player,
right? Yeah,
or the
I definitely
moment.
do that too. Where I only care about fantasy purposes nowadays for sports. It's pretty sad.
So do you think that's bad overall for the sports community, or is that good? Or is that just the way that we're gonna view sports now?
It's got to be bad.
How so?
Because there's money involved, so your
Yeah.
emotions are gonna get involved a lot. Well, they're gonna get involved in like maybe a really bad way, Um,
What's
oh
the
yeah, and you like randomly start hating players because they like did bad one week,
they
and
did bad one week and then the
yeah,
next week they do good. So even if they do good, you're not cheering for them because they didn't do good on your week.
exactly.
We have a weird ownership to these players. It's almost, and then I get it because you're right. Then they become more like cattle. I hate to be that blunt about it, but it's almost like a slaughter farm or a slaughterhouse five kind of reference,
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, if you don't perform for me this day, you're going to the slaughterhouse. I don't give a shit about you. I'm on to the
exactly.
next. And then we don't even appreciate grandiose performances like Tom Brady or Drew Brees or like these types of big milestone moments that I grew up with, like Peyton Manning's last game. It's like, who gives a shit if I don't got him? If he's 7K and he hasn't gotten me 38 points by halftime, I'm
Exactly.
there, you know. But
Yeah.
maybe that's like good in a way too. It's just different. Maybe that's the reason we haven't transitioned to it yet because it's so different. I don't know. I find it all interesting. Like, is video games gonna intertwine with sports in this gambling community? Are we gonna see more of a gambling, centric? Because that's the thing is, Brent Musburger, who I grew up with, had always hinted at over unders in the '90s on his podcast, but he could
Who did?
never say Brent Musburger.
Oh, okay.
Like he'd be an ABC commentator when I was growing up. But he could never talk about gambling. It was a very taboo thing. It was like talking about sex. Or it'd be like saying a curse word on like, a kid's cartoon. It was like we all know that guy doing the voiceover for Blue's Clues has probably said fuck in his life or probably smoked marijuana. But we can't speak about it right now. We can't
Yeah.
talk about how Miley Cyrus got high during Hannah Montana. We got to pretend that she's this blonde, perfect bombshell
Right.
because of the image. And for a long time, gambling was that kind of black beauty that everyone enjoyed doing, but we enjoyed it under the silk curtains of our bedroom. We didn't let the world see it. And so when people hinted at it, like Brent Musburger would do, it was just like supposed to be a hush hush thing. And now people are like, "Hey, look at me!" Like they're flinging off their coats and they're naked underneath it. And I think it's just a shock value, and nobody knows exactly where it's going to go. And I think, and you hit on it though, I don't think it's good or bad. I just think it's different. Like me and you spent a lot of time watching sports together from a DFS lens, and we're part of a community. I think we mentioned it, outside and Souls community, and I know you've been happy for people in the past for winning money. Okay, let's just say player X wins money. He's got, I don't know, Nikola Jokic, and we're watching basketball and Jokic is going off and almost at 80 points. And he's got life changing money. And so me and you are happy for him as a person. But at the same point, it's like if you're not a fan of the Denver Nuggets, who gives a shit? You know, like
Right.
you're making money, and I'm happy for you at some point. But then at another point, it's almost that Slaughterhouse-Five effect, where it's like, oh, you just care about Jokic just one day. So as long as Jokic gets you to 80 points and the 50 grand, you're happy. He breaks his leg next tomorrow. You're also happy because you don't have him, and somebody else.
Exactly right.
Like it's just a weird thing where it's like you cheer for someone to make life changing money and to make right decisions. Like if me and you won 10 grand tonight in a basketball contest, it would change your life, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you won 10 grand today, it would change your fucking life. But at the same point, it's like, when do we view these athletes as players, or when do we view them as poker chips? And I
Yeah,
think
I feel like bodies.
I'm a terrible host. I've heard nothing. Wait, what were you saying?
Yeah, it's almost like we're almost looking at them as just bodies at this point, and not.
I mean, it's weird because you have to, but it's like I don't want to.
I know, right?
Like, but so Calvin Ridley, right? He was doing the same thing, and he's in the industry. You know, when he's betting on the Falcons, he's betting on his own brothers to play well, but he's still doing it from the lens of, hey, I hope Matt Ryan stays healthy today. But then people are fucking biased because what do you think the Denver Broncos are doing when they give up all those first round picks for Russell Wilson today? They're viewing him as a body. Don't tell me they give a shit about him as a person. They don't
Yeah,
give
right.
they don't give up that many assets if they don't think he can throw the ball. So all these people being like, oh, you fantasy football players are fucking ruining the game. Oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes, you might have ruined the fucking Chiefs by taking so much fucking money. So don't be calling the kettle black when everyone's out to try to get money. You know, I always look at it this way. Maybe it's wrong, but there's a difference between somebody selling drugs and somebody selling groceries. There's some similarity,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, but at the end of the day, you could make justifications that both of those people are just trying to make money. You know, they're just trying to feed their family. They're just trying to move a product to make a dollar. And maybe the drug dealer is a better person than the grocery store worker. Maybe the grocery store worker, he's into the dark arts and he does some bad shit on the side. And the drug dealer donates all a portion of his profit to children's, charities. Like you can never know someone's true intention sometimes. And I think that's where the DFS community gets a bad rap. Like I've made some really good friends in this community and really good people.
Yeah, me too.
We've had some deep conversations. I don't think we're all degenerates, you know. Like I think people used to think everyone that played fantasy sports or gambled was this like fat, overweight guy who loved cigars. Like that stereotype does not exist. And I get really goddamn passionate about stereotypes because I'm a disabled person. So like I know what stereotypes feel like, you know. I know what it's like to be judged in that snap judgment. And I don't think things are one or the other.
Referring back to earlier, I was thinking about it. I think most of the kids nowadays, if they do get into like gambling, it's like the stock market or crypto or like the stock market or crypto or NFTs. I think more kids will lean there before they will touch DFS. I'm pretty sure.
Now, what do you think about the NFT market, like the video game market, like the MUT market? Do you think that integrates with DFS, and we just keep going? Like, so basically, video games become like the online casino for kids. I mean, we don't like to talk about it in such long terms, but I mean, think about like my team for 2K or the show for MLB, or like it doesn't matter. I mean, you can look at some of these games like Tarkov and Wolf Game for NFT and like these different projects. People are paying crazy amount of money for JPEGs. But like my uncle used to say, things don't cost what they cost. Things cost what people are willing to pay for them. So just because you see a sticker price in a grocery store doesn't mean that's the price of chicken tomorrow. It only depends on what people are willing to pay for it, you know. NFTs are only valuable because people are willing to buy them. So we can make jokes that they're YouTube videos or they're just JPEGs or you know it looks like artwork that a 12-year-old would make. It's like whatever you put value behind is gonna have value.
Yeah, and at least Al like tries to find video games that are NFT related because I just think they're just super boring. I couldn't even try to learn how to do that shit, dude, and like make money off of it. Like,
well, and some things are more translatable than others. Like, you remember, I forget the first one. What's that one called that Pete Overbit teamed up with right away, and they did the NBA highlight video. I can't. I'm drawing a blank on the name. But then finally they got the NFL into it a couple weeks ago, and the NFL videos just aren't doing as well as the NBA. And so I think that some sports are more transparently acceptable to these kind of highlight, you know, clips or these moments over other things like owning Brock Lesnar's first UFC victory in an NFT type moment where you get like a YouTube video sent to you and you own it, or like a LeBron James dunk, might be cooler than like a Cooper Cup Matthew Stafford 15-yard completion. Like I don't think all the sports translate to NFTs. Just like I don't think all the artwork is gonna hold value. There are gonna be some art projects that hold value throughout time, and then there are other times where you're gonna donate a lot of money, $2,000, $5,000, $20,000, and you're gonna be holding the bag, broke as hell because you invested in the wrong project.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be careful, you know. But it's the same thing. If me and you go to the restaurant, right, and I go on a Monday, and we go to the same restaurant, and you go on a Wednesday. If I get food poisoning on that Monday because I ate the breakfast, you know, the breakfast, the same breakfast as you did, it doesn't mean that you're gonna get food poisoning on Wednesday. It's like the person cooking my food might have been scratching their ass at the wrong time. There are a lot of different factors. I mean, there are a lot of different factors that we don't factor in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that was good.
Or just natural biases that we don't like. Like, why do you think some people are jealous of Al White? It's because he's got fucking gray hair, man. Well, they'd rather watch someone with a pink hat, you know, with a skull background like yourself, who they might relate to more because you look younger. You know, you talk more like the people. Or, you know, like we don't talk enough about biases in our own processes. You know, and even like when people try to be robotic, like we all know this. We know this one guy, right? Who's very analytical, very smart, but sometimes he goes too analytical and doesn't have enough emotions. So I think it's all about finding that rational balance and playing for the right reasons. I think if you're playing DFS or you're doing anything and you're not enjoying yourself, you're wasting time. And that goes for a job, that goes for your life, you should enjoy. There should be part of you that enjoys going to the bathroom every morning. You should enjoy the release of emptying your bladder, at least on some level. Because
Yeah,
if you
gratitude.
if you don't have gratitude and that kind of appreciation, everything
Gratitude
you
over expectation, man.
right,
Yeah,
it just leads to depression, dude. And so I guess that in closing, I guess that's what I would say about DFS is just have fun with it, man. So like, what do you do like outside of DFS? So like, we go a lineup, right?
Okay.
So outside of the sport element of DFS, what does DFS give you?
Something to do, right? And you guys to hang out with, right? And a chance to win money. But that doesn't happen ever. So
So after you build the lineup, is it just the fun of thinking about how much money you can make? And that's what drives you the rest of the day?
yeah, right, totally. 100%. Yep.
Because I'm always interested by that. It's like, okay, we build the lineup A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we put up together a lineup. But what about that lineup with that value? What does that give us? Like the way I got my parents on board with me doing DFS was I told them, hey, I could go to the bar and spend $20, might get beat up, I might get drunk, I might end up making a poor decision because I'm drunk. I might get in a car accident because I'm around other drunk people. Or I can put $5, watch on DFS, actually make money instead of spend money on the whiskey, you know. And they were like, you know, this might be a good investment, you know. But it's all about what you say. It's all about managing expectations. So one of our subscribers, Mike, wants to know if we can make a value plays for tonight. I have to know what sport you're talking about, buddy. Are you talking about basketball? He says,
We have a viewer?
of course I have viewers, dude.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do it, but on my end, he's asking us for any values tonight.
Wait, Mike, you're supposed to give us the plays, dude.
Yeah, this is more of a theory kind of show, but oh yeah, I would say for basketball tonight, you got to look at like Cameron Payne with Devin Booker being out. You got to look at Aiden. DeAndre Aiden is still too cheap. Guys like that, you know, a guy that I think could just blow up, and that could be Goran Dragic, who just took over.
I forgot about Dragic. Who does he play for?
He just got signed by the Nets a few days ago. I'm sure they're using him a lot more.
Oh, okay. Let me plug my phone into something else.
He's good. Take your time, buddy. So yeah, I would say look at Cameron Payne tonight. Look at Dragic. But NBA is always difficult, man. Here's my best NBA advice: don't build an NBA lineup until about 20 minutes before they start. And I think that's also key too. Is all the sports they have different idiosyncrasies. Like they all have their own. They all have their own perfume to put on. And for the NBA, if you're going to win in the NBA, you have to react to these very quickly. You have to be very reactionary. And for the NFL, it's like the opposite. Like where with you'll find out the value on Tuesday. You have to wait till Sunday to find out if that value is good. For the NBA, you might find out 5 minutes before lock for the guy is out. You know, it moves so much quicker.
Okay. All right. Is there any good plays tonight that are like dirt cheap?
Dirt cheap? Actually, let me pull my. But yeah, I would say like sometimes that's the mistake is sometimes people go so cheap instead of just going with a Cameron Payne who's like 4,000. You know what I mean? Or like Brandon Ingram might sit tonight. Well, Brandon Ingram said Herbert Jones, the rookie for New Orleans, could go off. You know,
Oh, Herbert Jones.
yeah, I don't think people realize like in the NBA, like I was saying, you have to know the sport in which you're playing because each sport has its own flavor, right? And
Right.
for the NBA, you find out the news like last second, you know. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think the biggest mistake you can make in the NBA is coming up with these plays too early in the day. For the NFL, you can do more deep dives because you got a whole week to prepare for this
Right.
one performance. For the
Yeah.
NBA, it's sometimes better to build your own 5 minutes before you start. It just is.
Here you go. Can you shut that door, please? I got Cameron Payne, Herbert Jones, Jonas Valanciunas. He's in a revenge game against Memphis. I don't know if you've played them already, but
See, I always like revenge games too in the NBA. I think revenge games really matter. Oh, Shamit should be getting the start with Devin Booker also out. Orlando Shamit.
damn it, dude, he's way too cheap.
I know Clay hasn't had that like Clay Thompson game yet, but that 9 3-pointer game for Clay Thompson's coming, and at only like 6K for Clay Thompson seems criminal. Herbert Jones, Cameron Payne, you know, but it's not just about the value you get; it's about what does the value allow you to do. You know,
Yeah.
or like let's go back to just the theory of sports for a second. Like, let's look at the Russell Wilson trade today, right? People are like, oh, well, it's a win because the Seahawks get to reset the roster and they get to draft a young quarterback and kind of rebuild that roster, right?
Yeah.
At the same point, it's like, well, the reason they're rebuilding is because of Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson was Tom Brady, they wouldn't be rebuilding. So, like, you have two franchises that view the same player very differently. The Seahawks are ready to move on, and the Denver Broncos think that Russell is going to make Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy the difference makers in the offense. And I think that is kind of the transition between DFS and sports. It's like we all watch sports, but we all do it through a different lens. It's okay. It is perfectly okay for you to have glasses and for me not to have glasses. We can still read the same book. You might just do it with reading glasses and I don't. You know, it's perfectly fine for me to put on the T-shirt at the beach because I have big fat titties and you don't and you have a six-pack. It's whatever makes you feel enjoyment in your environment is what you should do, you know?
Yeah.
For some people, going to the bar every Sunday at 1 o'clock is like their ritual thing that they do with their friends. I find it safer to hang out with you guys in a voice chat and get kind of new. So if we're both getting enjoyment, then what does it really matter? You know what I mean? Yeah, Cole Anthony's a good player too. I find it interesting. I guess we'll close up on this. Is I think DFS helps a lot of the small market teams like the Orlando Magics, like the Jackson Jaguars. Like, I don't think people realize how much DFS and gambling has helped the smaller market teams, like the Detroit Pistons upset win over the Atlanta Hawks yesterday. Like that game going to overtime and Bagley getting over 40 points literally took me from winning a few dollars to winning a substantial, substantial amount of money on it, But who gives a shit about the Atlanta Hawks and the Detroit Pistons and Houston? But you care. I mean, why do you get up and watch a game at 9 in the morning when they play in London? Oh, you might do it because you have the star running back, or you have Trevor Lawrence on your team. So I don't think we get enough credit for what we do for sports. Is there any other topics before we close up shop?
I don't think so.
Anything else? I'm going to bring you on in a couple weeks anyway. I'm going to keep bringing my friends on and just have these free-flowing conversations. I like that we didn't have any topics today, and we just kind of take a shot at things, and we kind of let the flames of the fire kind of stoke the conversation. We don't steer it one way or the other, because I think that's the organic movement. That's the only thing keeping cable companies alive is live sports.
Right.
It's that live interaction, dude. No one wants the scripted material anymore. So that's kind of what I like to do with this podcast, is just have this live. I'm naked, you're naked. We're just gonna clean ourselves and share different opinions. And I think so many times people try to present this image, especially in gambling terms of like. I find it interesting that some people, like we were talking about with basketball, it's like you can find the 3K player, right, that's going to play tonight. Let's say, I don't know, let's say it's Flint Shamit, right?
Shamit, right.
He's like 3K, 30. I think he's 3,700, right? But if you don't find the right players to put around him, like a Giannis or like a Evan Mobley, and you don't have, like, if you don't put the value around the guy who also gets you 50 or 60 points, then the value means nothing. It's the same opposite view is if you get a Cole Anthony or you get a starter, but you don't put the right value around him, then it means nothing. It's like last night, Embiid and Jokic both went for 70, right? 70 fantasy. Right. But if you didn't have Moody and you didn't have some of these other cheaper guys last night, then you didn't have the money to really pay off their price tag. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you got to have both. It's like what we were talking about earlier, to go full circle. It's like we can enjoy sports from so many different angles. Things don't have to be one way or the other. They don't have to be maximized and minimized at the same time. They can be both. And I think that's what the younger generation is really proving to us. It's like you can enjoy video games and gambling at the same time. Look at Mutt and how successful that is. Look at my team. Look at NFT. Like, things don't have to be one way or the other. So I guess that's it for me, man. I'm going to get out of here now and we'll close up shop. We're going to be very organic. We're not going to have any outro music. We're not going to have any weird music. We're just going to say goodbye, stay safe. And I guess, is there any plugs you want to give? Where'd you get that beautiful pink hat of yours?
It's a Nike hat. I got this from the mall for about $30.
Man, I look good, man. Good for my complexion.
I just like the Jonas Valanciunas revenge game, kind of. Oh yeah, this guy did say one thing in chat. He did mention Masvidal and Colby. I don't know if you want to get out of here.
Well, we can go for a bit longer, man. Oh, you dropped out. I don't think you meant to do that. Yeah. Well, the stars and scrub method, Mike, is really true. I know he was going to elaborate, so we'll give him a chance to get back in here if he wants to. Yeah, he's messaging me now, but yeah, we'll just close up shop. We'll get him back in here next time, man. But for now, we're gonna call it a night. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Enjoy. See you later, boys. Good night.